Okay guys, on the last video we talked about adding and subtracting radicals. The big concept there was that we had to have like terms in order to add. For multiplying, we don't have to have like terms. The big thing is when we're multiplying radicals, you just multiply the outside numbers and multiply the inside numbers. That's about it for when we're multiplying. Let's look at some examples. Okay, this first example. Okay, so I have 4 square root of 6 times square root of 3. I can technically put a 1 right there. Okay, so we multiply the outside numbers, so 4 times 1 is 4. Okay, and then multiply the inside of our square roots, so square root of 6 times the square root of 3, which is going to be the square root of 18. Okay. And when we're multiplying, it has to be the same type of root. Like we have to multiply a square root times a square root. We can't do like a cube root and a square root. But now let's get back to this problem. I'm not done yet. What I have to do is see if I can clean it up or simplify it a little further. If I look at square root of 18, I can actually break that down into 9 and 2. Okay, and the square root of 9 is 3. Okay, so now I have a pair of 3's. So I'm going to have 4. Bring that 4 down times 3 that comes out. And then square root of 2, because the 2's left behind. Well, I can actually simplify that even further. I'm going to kind of draw that over there. 4 times 3 is just 12 square root 2. And that's my final answer. So you just multiply the outside, multiply the insides, and then see if you can simplify it once you do that. Okay guys, this is similar to the last one. I'm now just introducing some variables, but it's going to be the same concept, okay? We're going to multiply these, and we just multiply the insides. So we're going to have the square root of 2 times 6 is 12, okay? X times x is x squared. And then we just have a y to the 4th. Now this is like what we did last class period when we're simplifying radical expressions. Okay, let's do our number first. We can break that down into 4 and 3. And 4 can be 2 and 2. So that means I'm going to have 2 and then just a square root 3. I'm going to leave some space for my variables. Okay, now let's do our exponents. Remember, this is technically a little 2 here since it's a square root. So how many times does 2 go into 2? Well, just once, so I have a 1. X, okay, you could write out your x's if you wanted to, and then 2 goes into 4 for my y's 2 times, so I have y squared, and there's none left over, so that is going to be my final answer. If you wanted to, you could write out your x's and write out your y's, or you could kind of do that shortcut. All right, let's go to the next example. Okay, now we're multiplying. This is just like distribution. This is almost like what we did when we had something like this. Okay, we just distribute that 3 to both of them. So it's going to be the same concept. We're going to do the square root times this one, square root of 2 times the last one. Okay, so square root of 2 times 3, square root of 14, well, that's going to be 3. And multiply the insides. 2 times 14 is 28. Minus, that's just going to become 9, square root 2. Now, before I say I'm all good and done, I'm going to have to go ahead and try to break this down. Well, this is 7 and 4. 4 breaks down into 2 and 2. Those are 2's. They're bad 2's, but they're 2's. Okay, so there's my pair. So I'm going to bring a 2 out. Well, 2 times 3 is going to be 6, square root 7, minus 9, square root 2. Now this goes back to our last video about adding and subtracting. Square root of 7 and square root of 2, we can't combine those, so that is our final answer. All right, now this one, don't overthink this one. Okay. 2 square root of 3 plus square root of 5 squared just means this. I'm just going to go ahead and rewrite this as 2 square root 3 plus square root 5 times 2 square root 3 plus square root of 5. Now, just like we would when we had variables, when we were multiplying things like this, we're just going to distribute it to everything. So that times that, that times that, that times that, and that times that. So the first one, 2 times 2 is 4, and square root of 3 times square root of 3 is square root of 9. Okay. Plus, we're going to do this outside one right here. So 2 times 1 is just 2, square root 15. Okay, then this inside one right here, which would be positive 2 square root 15. And the last one, square root of 5 times the square root of 5 is positive square root of 25. Okay, before we say we're all good and dandy, we have to see if we can simplify it even further or break any of these down. Well, I know that the square root of 9 is just 3, so this is going to be 4 times 3, which is just 12. 15 is just 5 and 3, so there's no pairs. So I'm just going to bring down this plus 2 square root 15. Okay, same over here. Nothing I can break down, so I'm going to bring a plus 2 square root 15. And square root of 25 is just 5, so that's just going to be plus 5. Right? Now, let's see if we can combine like terms, because I do have some like terms, right? We have these numbers right here, 5 plus 12, which is 17. And then we have 2 square root 15 plus 2 square root 15, which would give me plus 4 square root 15. So it's kind of using that adding and subtracting that we did last video on top of multiplication. These problems take a little bit of time, but really it's just distributing. Just be careful with your signs and be careful with your multiplication. All right, go ahead and try some practice problems.